I was saying that what we're going to be doing this evening is we're going to be discussing the real people, real stories, and real income. And what I find, it's always an interesting phenomenon. If someone said to you, or you just bought a yellow Jeep, what happens when you buy a yellow Jeep? What do you start seeing? You start seeing
Yellow Jeeps.
Yellow Jeeps or yellow cars or yellow, the same was true when I got pregnant. When I got pregnant, it seemed everybody was pregnant around me. So it's a phenomenon when something comes into our sphere of thoughts or something that we get that you see it more often. Well, as I was saying, Pam reminded me that when we started our business, we were shared and shown the recap of teams that develop a large business and a large income. And myself being a very visual person, it made much more sense to me. So we're going to begin, and why the phenomenon is so interesting is because we've been talking about real stories, real people and real stories. And everywhere I turn, whether I turn the TV on or I'm on the radio, people are talking about telling stories, sharing stories. So what you'll see tonight and what we're going to be doing, you're going to meet real people who have real stories and who also have real income. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the presentation. Did that show up?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, share screen. There we go. There we go. Okay, so tonight we're going to have a wonderful speaker. I've been working with Jennifer Cancio recently now for about a year. Although I met her many years ago, she was one of the first people that I met when I went to Florida to do a meeting for Michael and Jan Gallerano. And I think at that point she had just come into Shaklee, was new to hearing about Shaklee. So tonight we're going to hear her real story. So Jennifer Cancio, we're going to bring you on up now. Jennifer is a PhD and an integrative health coach. She's also a fully certified Pilates trainer with many years of experience. And health is very important to her, has been for a long time. And she's going to share a little bit of her story and what her mission is right now. Jennifer.
Okay, well, thank you. So I'm Jennifer Cancio, and I'm excited about this series because I think what's missing as people are getting started in the business is hearing about all the different journeys that there are. And I'm still in the beginning stages of Shaklee. And so I could talk about product, but I'm not. I want to really talk about my opportunity, my experience as a business leader. So I first learned about Shaklee about 8 years ago, a little more than 8 years ago. And it was at a time where I was actually starting my life over like 100%. I had been living overseas and my marriage had ended and I found myself at the beginnings of a divorce, and I moved to Florida to be near my mom and dad, brought my daughter with me, found myself as a single mom, and was sick. I was tired, I was stressed, and I was in the process of healing on all fronts, mental and physical. And I've always had an interest in health and wellness. And I was just trying to figure out how I'm going to do all of this. How am I going to be the sole breadwinner of my family, caring for my daughter? How am I going to start over in a brand new town in Vero Beach, Florida? I don't know anybody. I didn't even have a job, but I did have family support and I did have determination. And I remember praying to the universe, said, just give me the fast track to happiness. I'll do what it takes. So lo and behold, I went to a wellness center where Jan and Michael Gallerano, where they had owned Positive Change, a little bit north of where I live. And they helped me get on that fast track to feeling better, to feeling more relaxed, and to getting healthy. And I came to them with issues for digestion and energy. And I started talking with Jan and became friends with her, and we had a common interest in health and wellness, and we traded a lot of information. I had also started to go back to school to become a health coach. And in talking with Jan, she had introduced me to some Shaklee products, and I really like them. As all of you know, that the products are amazing. And I found the right combination of products that pretty much took care of all of my health problems very quickly. And I didn't want to go without these products. They were just amazing. So as I got more curious about the products, Jan actually asked me if I wanted to hear about the Shaklee business. And she invited me to a few gatherings. And I'm kind of stubborn and the biggest skeptic. So I will say on record, I probably said no to her at least 3 times. And she graciously accepted my no. I still came to her for the services that I was seeking. And then finally I said, you know what, I should give this a chance because these products really are amazing. And her passion about the products really was clear to me. So I sat down with her and listened to her presentation about the business. And I liked what I heard. I was a little confused. It seemed kind of overwhelming, but I liked the idea of having my own business in health and wellness. I liked the idea of it being an add-on to my Pilates business and my health coaching business I was just beginning to manifest. I liked the idea of time freedom. I liked the tax benefits. I liked the mission of Shaklee. And I've always been passionate in helping others. I'm just a helper type by nature. I was confused about how I could do this, but I did take a leap of faith because I trusted Jan, I trusted the products, and it just seemed like a great way to diversify my income. So I started to share the products with clients, and as I got results with my clients, just like I did, I'm like, all right, this is it, I'm gonna do it. So once I decided to do it, I became a director rather quickly. And I coasted as a director for several years and just kind of sustained this basic growth as a director because I liked how it supplemented my Pilates income. The work here in Florida is very seasonal. So I like the idea of some of my northerners when they come down here for our winters, which are your summers for those of you up north. I like the idea of my clients down here, my Pilates clients down here, still being a customer even though they're not physically here. So that was like a huge selling point for me. So I kind of coasted, and I would truthfully say that for the first part of being with Shaklee as a director, this was kind of hobby income. Jan and Michael ended up moving away to pursue some other things going on, and they are still with Shaklee. And I just coasted as a director, kind of happy, humming along. And then there was a pivot in my life. So I coasted like this. And about a year before the pandemic, a few things came together for me. The first is my daughter started high school. She's now still in high school. And I said to myself, I want to have a full-time income in Shaklee and be set up full-time by the time she graduates from high school so that I could go visit her at college because she already stated she has no desire to go to school in Florida. So that was one big goal I set for myself. And in addition, around that time, Joanne came down to Vero Beach, and that's when we reacquainted. I actually met her before at Jan and Michael's home when they did a presentation, and then she came down to Susie's. And at that time, I was ready, and I decided I was ready to take this to the next level and make this my career. So I asked Joanne if she would mentor me because I was really seeking someone whose style I could identify with, because once you find someone you click with, then the rest starts to really come together. And also I had seen so many success stories at convention, online, listening to this, listening to that. I knew if other people can do it, I can do it. People do it. It's just a matter of deciding to do it. So I started to squeeze Shaklee into my schedule as much as possible. I started to confront some of my demons and insecurities that I had about approaching people. Whether it comes across to you or not at the moment, I'm extremely introverted. I've always been introverted. So to become a people person, or at least, play one on TV, was really important for me. And it was actually very rewarding for me to be able to confront some of those demons. So my volume started to increase little by little, but then the big time was when the pandemic hit. All fitness studios closed. I had zero income. from Pilates. I had some income from Shaklee. And I knew that I really had to put my money where my mouth is and also show Joanne, who spent so much time with me, that I'm ready to do this. I knew the time was now. I just had to put on my big girl panties and just do it. So I took all of the information I had been absorbed about Shaklee, and I thought it's time to put this into practice. So in less than a year since the shutdowns last March, I more than doubled my volume in my business. I found business leaders to say yes to Shaklee. And really, for me, it was about making the decision to do this. Wishing for something, wanting something, desiring something, dreaming about something is very different from deciding to do something. I started to journal, and Joanne was a big part in helping me journal. And journal not what I did for the day, but journal what do I want, and refining that until I finally settled on what I want. And it's so funny, not funny, it's so interesting that we often know what we want, but we get so distracted with things that are not important. And those get in the way of what we want. And weeks can go by and we forget what we want. So during that time that I had a good 8 weeks or so before I could even consider teaching Pilates again. Every single day I did something related to Shaklee. Journaling was a non-negotiable every day. Listening to training materials was non-negotiable. I did that almost every day. And if I didn't feel like any customer follow-up, I made sure I journaled or listened to something related to Shaklee. I just had to keep Shaklee on my brain, and that's how I generated momentum. I also improved my follow-up with customers. I touched base with Joanne and made myself accountable to her. And I made sure I did something every day, basically. And for anybody that's watching this, that's not here and able to ask questions, I didn't do any grand thing. I didn't find that star distributor. It really was a cumulative effect of doing something every day. That, it's like what's called the compounding effect, for those of you that might know about compounding. And this is a financial term, but I really believe this can be applied to any of your goals or desires. So compounding is simply, if you double a penny every day for a month, at the end of the month, you have $5 million. If you double a penny every other day for a month, you have $163.84 to be exact. So I really believe that the way to really build your business is to do something every day. So by the end of that 30 days, you're more receptive to your intentions, you're more receptive to your business and your desires for your business, and things become easier and easier with daily effort. For me, I had to be really clear about what I wanted. And I have to, and I still do to this day, remind myself every day, sometimes twice a day. It's written down on my iPhone. I write it down on paper. I begin my day this way and end my day this way. The other thing that I did, and like I mentioned before, I don't think it's on the recording, is I've made some cuts in my schedule and changes in my schedule that were distractions. Tennis, I absolutely love tennis, but I've actually cut out a lot of tennis, and that's one big thing that I did. And anytime I find a pocket in my schedule when a Pilates client has canceled, I immediately fill that in my calendar with something related to Shaklee. The other thing I did too that's really important is that I kept at least my version of a 5-tab notebook where I can keep track of what I do every day. There's nothing I dislike more than to see an empty white page in my calendar and flip through that. So that's kind of like a way of tricking myself to do something every day, because I visually don't want to see any empty spots in my calendar. I found a quote that I wrote out that I just wanted to end my presentation with, is this: whenever you are stuck searching for the optimal plan, remember, just getting started changes everything. So if you find yourself stuck in your business, or you find yourself not knowing where to start, just start doing small things, but do the small things every single day, because over time they become big things. So that's my
Thank
story.
you, Jennifer. you hit on so many wonderful points. Compounding is one of them. Excuse me, because when you see the income that I've been able to achieve through Shaklee, excuse me, it's pretty much been the compounding effect. Let me have a sip here. Also, the fact that, you know, I always had a saying, a little bit of Shaklee every day goes a long way. I'm going to share a little bit. Most of you have heard my story, Joanne Nistico. I live in Virginia. I actually started my business when I was in my 20s, in my early 20s, and I was searching for something to be able to do to make a little bit of extra money. You know, I was studying to be a special education teacher. I realized that emotionally, I wasn't equipped to handle all the emotions of all the dramas that go on in a family that have seriously emotionally challenged children in the special age group. So I was in between trying to figure out what I was going to do to have a career. Where was I going to go? At that point, I also realized that I was the kind of teacher that I didn't like as a kid. I was a ADD, high energy child, and the teachers had a hard time and were challenged by me. But I realized that I didn't have any energy. I was no longer eating well. I was having a cup of coffee in the morning, running off. I was smoking cigarettes, and my health was just generally not good. And I took a look at myself and I said, ew, you're just like the teachers that you hated. You better do something about that. So I went to the health food store. I started doing hatha yoga. My yoga teacher was a purist, and he introduced me to a health food store where I started taking vitamins, cooking with brewer's yeast, eating organic foods, and I started feeling better and I had more energy, and I really felt great because I was taking a lot of yoga. My yoga teacher was a Shaklee coordinator, as it turns out. I used to see products going through the class, and I would ask, you know, what are they? And they said, well, you know, those are, you know, nutritional products or organic nutritional products, health products. And there was a non-toxic cleaner for laundry. And I said, well, gee, I'd like to try that. How much is it? They told me the price, and I said, well, I don't want to pollute the environment, but I can't afford something like that. And, you know, they never told me that it would actually save me money because I only would use a quarter of a cup. I think I might have tried it if they had mentioned that. To make a long story short, what happened was I started taking over my yoga teacher's yoga classes, and I needed to make some extra money because I wasn't making very much as a yoga teacher. And I asked my yoga teacher if I could get involved with Shaklee. He said yes. He couldn't meet with me. At that time, I moved to DC, started teaching there, looked up in the white pages and called someone and said, can I sell some Shaklee products? I want to make $50 a week extra. Well, the $50 a week extra, as you'll see as I go forward, has moved forward quite beautifully for me. As I fell in love with the health benefits of Shaklee, I fell in love with the products. You don't have to feel bad to feel better. The products were far superior to what I was buying at the health food store. I noticed a difference even though I was very healthy. And then I saw all the possibilities that Shaklee could provide me. And I figured, well, if I can make $50 a week extra, maybe I'll look at the other incomes that are available. I love the mission, I love the philosophy, and I love the people that I was introduced to. Speaking of people being introduced to, you know, we talked about real people. All of these people, all of these names are real people, and they all have their own real stories about what Shaklee has provided them. Abul Mansuri, I met through someone who introduced me to someone who introduced me to someone who introduced me to someone. And his wife and he got such great results on the products, they decided to share some. So these are all different generations. When you see a 1, that's usually a first generation in my particular family tree. Chris Baldino was in Connecticut. She was a special ed teacher. I met her through someone who introduced me to her. Sandy Amarato, the second person who's in that line, Chris knew both Amarato, Sandy, and shared it with her. Sandy got great health results and wanted to make some extra money. So she started sharing her story. And through sharing her story with other people, they developed what's called a directorship, as Jennifer had mentioned earlier. Sandy knew Susan. Susan was having trouble getting pregnant. And so Sandy said, well, why don't you try this stuff? Maybe it'll help you. And voila, she got pregnant. So people were saying, well, what did you do? Well, she said, and she also is a high intellectual scientific person, so really delved into the science of what Shaklee offered. So she shared it with a whole bunch of people. And then of course we see Bloom and Sassy, who's on the phone here, on the Zoom here today. And Susie has a great story. We're gonna be sharing real income, real stories, real people once a month. The next date will be on May 20th. We wanted to make this real. We wanted to make it so that people understood that through compounding your time, you know, the consistency, that's one thing. I didn't feel I had any great talent other than the fact that quitting wasn't an option. And I loved what I did. So all those figures of monies there and total leg of thousands, this is 1 month of activity that has been developed over the consistency of people who have their own teams, who've developed their own consumer business, who've also then shared the model of the duplication of how they can do the same thing. The beauty of this duplication model is that we all have the same benefits. Jennifer could actually out-earn me if she did more or created more than I created and worked with. So the model continues. This is my organization or team of people. You'll hear from Budner Associates. Pam Budner was a best friend of mine since 9th grade. She was my first director, the first person that I shared it with. She has a great story. I'm not going to talk to her about that. Tree of Dreams, Scott Holdren and his wife Sue, they were introduced through someone who introduced them to Pam, and Scott actually is running the Zoom tonight and has helped me and me tremendously on the IT stuff. And then the others have also been introduced. That one other opportunity of the possibilities is people roll up if someone moves out, so you never really lose by helping everyone, and we don't compete against each other. Health Naturally Inc. is a wonderful, interesting story of someone in Michigan that I did not know, who I was introduced to by someone else who I was introduced to, And you know, that whole leg brings in about 35,000, 36,000 volume a month into my organization. They make their own percentages, they make their own income. And then of course we have Donna Titus, who's in South Carolina, who's introduced a number of other people who we have a lot of good real stories in there. So all of this that you've seen so far comprises in 1 month well over 100,000 plus of sales or products being consumed on a daily basis. This business gives you a significant income. It does take consistency, as Jennifer said. It's, you know, a little bit of Shaklee every day goes a long way. It's a story of what you can expect as you share your story with others. Share the possibilities of the business opportunity and stay consistent with your message. Each of these people's individual businesses represent product that's consumed month after month and year after year. Someone said, when I first got into the business, we had to inventory product. Today, we don't touch product. Years ago, we had to inventory product. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I need $5,000 to inventory. I want to show you all the sales I have from customers that are buying it. And he introduced me to his banker. That's how my business started. Today, we don't have to inventory. It's so much easier. All we have to do is share our story and follow up. Of that 100,000 plus that comes into the teams that I have in the Gen team, I only purchased almost $336.96 that month out of well over $100,000 in that month. That was a low month of purchase. I do try to stock more so I don't have to buy so much every month that I use everything. But one of the elements that happens for everyone and what we all have to do is share our story. I'm going to introduce Pam Budner now, who was my very first director, best friend since 9th grade. She's going to share about how you can develop your own first step of a consumer business, which is being a director. Pam?
Sure. Thanks, Joanne. I won't tell my whole story, but you know, Joanne and I go way back, and isn't it great that she introduced me to Shaklee and that we continue to explore all the possibilities all these years. And what you see in front of you is where everyone starts. And that, I always like to say, you know, whether you're opening up a shoe store or a law practice or a medical practice, whatever it is that you're launching, you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to build and develop your database of people. And these people become your customers, and they become your referral sources, and they become, as you could see from that very mature organization, some of them become your business partners. But it all starts with sharing the products and developing a really, really strong directorship. We talk about, you know, going beyond that $2,000 entry level and developing a strong network of people who use and consume the products, as Joanne said, day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. This reflects 1 month of consumer business that came through under my umbrella. So I didn't count all these names. It starts probably with the first of, this is March, and goes to the end of March. But each one of these people represent someone who has fallen in love with the products, who is committed to using and consuming the product, many of them on an auto ship basis, on a regular basis. They represent people who I have stayed in touch with, communicated with all these years that I've been in Shaklee. Some of them like to order on their own. Some of them like to communicate with me directly to place their orders, but it doesn't matter what style of ordering it is. What's important is that to build a longevity in your consumer base is to continue to nurture the relationship, to honor people, to recognize people, to communicate with people on a regular basis. Because really, if you go back and look at our history, the number one reason still, I think, that people will join you in Shaklee is because of you. So you have to put your attractor factor in. You have to continue to recognize people and appreciate people and let them know what we have to offer. And as you nurture that relationship, your database of consumers will grow and expand. And what is the average, Joanne? I think that the average person is a
Jennifer
Shaklee.
knows that.
Yeah.
8 years is the overall average, but it's not unheard of to hear 10, 15, 18 years, but 8 years is like the official average.
And I would say that I could tell you probably, I would say 2/3 of the people on this list have been with me for over 30 years. And I could definitely say that. And that is so exciting.
That was the other thing, Pam. My dad asked me, first he asked me if my products were perishable. And of course they weren't, because we came from a restaurant family background. The other thing is they're consumable. You know, what goes up in smoke and down the drain is where you get the most gain. So when you fall in love with a product and you're used to using and you get in the habit of loving these products and getting the results, these people use them day in and day out. And then as they realize that not only are the nutritional products good for our insides, we've got our great natural skincare line that helps our skin look healthy and beautiful, and we also protect the planet. We have other opportunities to explore more of this information for you. I just want to share a couple of things. You know, there's nothing more wonderful than realizing that you're offering something that isn't just for you, to benefit you, that it benefits every single person that you introduce this program to, whether it's getting the product results or getting the income results. Having shared with my best friend the opportunity to stay at home, and her business is called What Matters Most, take care of her mother throughout her entire life ending, and also her family and children, Shaklee has paid her, not me, Shaklee has paid her over $1 million since 2000. Shaklee has paid me since 2000 over 2,500,000. Between the both of us, Shaklee has paid us almost $4 million in revenue to us. And that's not counting all the other people that I showed you whose names on my list that have been paid by Shaklee Corporation. It'd be really interesting to see how many millions of dollars Shaklee Corporation has paid to the people I've helped introduce to this wonderful opportunity. And you know what's really interesting is that it's not just for you. It doesn't come, just think if they were all employees and you had to pay everybody. Roger Barnett loves to pay people, he says, and Roger Barnett is the owner and CEO of Shaklee Corporation. Here's an ending of something that fascinated me, because I always looked at Shaklee as my retirement source of income, you know, when I don't want to work that much, which can't say I'm overly working these days. But this is from the Rule of Thumb, which was created by Wes Moss, an Atlanta-based certified published planner and financial educator. And he said, the $1,000 a month rule states that for every $1,000 per month you want to have an income during retirement, you need to have at least $240,000 saved. So given the nature of what Shaklee pays me on a monthly basis, based upon the work that I've done over the years, and I would have to have $2,888,000 in the bank in savings to get the kind of income and check that Shaklee's paying me today. Now, I saw that way back when. I can't say that it was always uphill. I've had many dramas of life. I got in when I was single in my 20s. I got married. The story goes longer and longer. But the reality is that Shaklee was always there. The products were always the best. And I was always paid on time and always paid. And we're still doing that, and we look forward to bringing in newer people. I feel I have another wonderful 10 years ahead of me to continue the duplication model of sharing this great opportunity and possibilities for better health and a great income. So the next steps for any of you that have been invited that are here and you want to know more, you want to know what you can do, is just contact the person that invited you, whether you're seeing it live or you're watching the recording. Thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to stop sharing right now.